In this video, we're going to build the UI for our order screen. And here's the quick challenge. As you see here, it's a relatively simple list, may look familiar, and we have a button that also may look familiar. So the point of this screen was for us to start using our reusable objects, right? That's kind of the lesson I wanted to show here. So that's my hint. I'm gonna see if you can build this yourself. The little trick here is we're going to do the swipe to delete. So that's the new little wrinkle. But if you wanna try to build this yourself, again, it's mostly review, but we're using reusable objects. So give that a shot. If not, that's cool. We're gonna build it now, but I always like to give you the opportunity to try and push yourself. Okay, so into our code here, the order view, move it up here. Let me minimize these folders because I don't want my head blocking the way here. So screens, we are in the order view, which is nothing, right? We just have the basic placeholder that we had. Now again, pulling up the design, let's kind of break this down a little bit. It's a list view, but there's a button at the bottom. So that's gonna be a VStack with the list view at the top of the VStack and the button at the bottom of the VStack. So pretty simple layout. So let's build that basic structure. So first of all, let's, in the navigation view, build a VStack and put the text in the VStack so Xcode doesn't freak out. You gotta have something in there. And then we'll put our navigation title on the VStack. Okay, so nothing should have changed, but we just put a VStack in there. So instead of text and orders, let's create a list. Now we gotta do this list a little bit differently because of the fact that we're doing swipe to delete. The onDelete modifier we're going to use is only on for each, like it's only a modifier for that. Like list doesn't have an onDelete modifier. So something to keep in mind, if you do want swipe to delete on your list, you can't build lists how we've been doing it, where we initialize the list with our data and then the ID and all that stuff. You have to put a for each inside a list, which is also another common way to build lists anyway. So you should be familiar with both methods. So we'll type for each and then we'll initialize it. And the for each has a similar initializer to just our list, right? Where we have our data, which is unnamed, that's that underscore, ID, and then content. So it's pretty similar to how we used to initialize the list. So it's not a complete departure from what we've been doing. Okay, data. We need to adjust this a bit. So let's go to our appetizer, right? This is where we have our mock data. We have our sample appetizers, so we have an array already that we can use. However, if you remember what I said, that this sample data is a little messed up because our ID is what matters. It's how SwiftUI knows what object is what. And right now, our ID is the same for everything. And this only comes into play when we're like adding items to an array or deleting items from an array, which is what we're doing in swipe to delete. So we need to create some different dummy data to create our UI. So I'm gonna copy this here. And basically we're just gonna create 3 items and they're just gonna have different IDs, that's all. So down here, we'll do order item 1, tab that over, forgot to tab this over, and okay, cool. So now instead of 00, well, we can keep this 001. We'll do copy, paste, and paste. Again, just 3 items here. So 2, and all we're really changing is the ID. So they have unique IDs, and then 3. And get this back to be lined up. Okay, so again, instead of ID 1, we want ID 2. Instead of ID 1, we want ID 3. So again, just unique IDs. You can change the name if you want. In fact, let's do that. Test appetizer 1, just to be sure, we have the right items here. 3, and then 4. I'm dumb. I forgot 2. Can't even count. 2 and 3. Okay, so it doesn't really matter. We just want to make sure we have the different items. And then now we'll create an array called static let order items, and that is going to equal order item 1, order item 2, order item 3. And again, this is just building out some quick dummy data that I use to build my UIs. Of course, we're going to populate this with real data, eventually, but to get the UI going and the structure of it, this is what we want to use. So again, it's going to be mock data dot order items, and that's going to be our array of order items 1, 2, and 3. So back to the order view, that's what we're going to use here for data. So mock data dot order items, the array. And then the ID would be the key path ID, but remember we don't need that because we're conforming to identifiable on our appetizers. And then the content, we don't need, we can do our view builder here, and this is where our cell would go. And oops, I forgot. Again, the same way we do it, we need appetizer in, right? Because as we're iterating through, we get an appetizer for each thing. Now I need something to return here as the cell. And like I said, we're going to be using the reusable objects here. So this is going to be an appetizer list cell that we've already created. Remember, that takes in an appetizer, and we'll pass in the appetizer. So again, very, very similar, almost exactly what we did before on our list view, except now we're using for each instead of doing it on the list. Try again on the preview. There we go. Okay, you'll notice something different. Like our list looks funny. So here's what we have to give it a list style. So on list, you can do .list style, and here's where you can do a couple different ones. There's plain list style. So if you initialize that, now that's going to look like our normal list. However, kind of the new hotness in iOS is the grouped list style. So this is where you would just do group list style. And this is what gives it that kind of new look. Or you can do inset grouped list style. I guess this is what I was talking about when I was talking about the new look of list, not grouped. I just forgot the inset part, right? How table views now are kind of like, they got that padding on each side. So if you want that style, cool. We're going to go with the old plain list style. I don't know. I still like this. Like I like the inset grouped for like settings. I don't think it applies for every type of table view. So plain list style. So now that we have our list, now we need our button in the VStack. So button, again, the first closure is going to be what happens when we tap the button. For now, we're just going to type or print out order placed. We'll obviously be implementing that later. And then the label, the second closure in the multiple trailing closures is what the button looks like. And what our button's going to look like, if we go to views, we have an AP button. Great, AP button. Again, this was all about kind of reusing the objects that we've used. So for the title, again, the string we're going to pass in right now is just kind of a placeholder. We'll fix this once we actually have the value. This is where we're going to have our price total and then place order. So we'll say like, 99.99 place order. And later on, we're going to write some logic that will calculate the total of our order. But for now, again, as we're building the UI, that's what we want. Now, to me, that is hugged up a little bit too close to the bottom. So we're going to add some padding bottom. So .padding, .bottom, and then we'll just give it 20 question mark. Who put the question mark on the teleprompter? Who gets that reference? 30. Sure. 25. Again, you can just dial it in however you like. Well, we'll stick with 25. Put whatever you want in there to get the look you want. Okay, so the UI is done. As you can see, pretty simple, right? We just had the VStack. Our VStack holds a list and a button. Our list is just another version of appetizer list cell, except it's going to hold our order items. In a later video, we're going to create our order object that is being manipulated. When we add an item to order, when we delete it, that's coming later. For now, just for the UI, we have our mock data. Again, we're showing the list reusing the same cell that takes an appetizer and shows the pertinent details. We went back to our plain style list, and then we added our button, which again reused our AP button. So we have it nice and simple, and we'll calculate the price total later. So our UI is pretty simple. Now let's implement the swipe to delete. This is kind of the new twist we haven't done yet. Now, like I said, the on delete modifier is only on the for each, and it comes with some special features for that reason, right? This is why you can't use it like everywhere. So if you do on delete, here you go, perform, and you can see we get an index set. And I just realized that I need to actually create a variable for our mock data array. So we'll do @state private var. We were gonna have to do this anyway when we actually had our order items, but we'll need this now. So we'll say order items, and that is going to equal mock data.order items. So instead of mock data.order items for our for each, we can just say order items. Now I know you may be thinking, well, it's the same exact thing. Well, we need access to our order items elsewhere. So that's why I did that, like specifically here. So here we can do order items.remove, and then not just we want to do @offsets, which is kind of hidden down here. So remove @offsets, and then you see @offsets takes in an index set. Well, good thing we got an index set right here. So here we do index set. So what's going to happen when we swipe to delete, it's going to know the index of the item, and then we're going to call order items.remove basically at that index. So our swipe to delete should be working. So let's run it on the simulator. Okay, go to our order screen, which is new. Okay, so swipe, there we go. Delete, appetizer 1 goes away. Appetizer 3, gone. Appetizer 2, gone. We haven't put an empty state yet. We're going to do that in the next video, but that's where we would show the empty state. So our swipe to delete is working. Okay, back to our code. We'll stop this. There is a little bit of a cleaner way to write that, but I wanted to show you how to use it when using just like the autocomplete that you get, because I feel like this spells it out a little more and is a little easier to understand how it knows the index set. That's why it's got to be on for each, so it knows, you know, this index. But we can write this a little cleaner by adding a function here. So let's do func delete items at offsets, and it takes an index set. Remember, that's the index set we got. And then here we can just call order items, the same thing we just called basically, remove at offsets, and then we pass in offsets. And then now, again, this isn't as straightforward as this, right? Because you can see, hey, get an index set, cool, I'm gonna remove that index set. But it is cleaner that we can write just on delete perform, and then instead of all that, we can just call delete items. We don't even need the at. And there we go, let's test this again just to make sure it's working. Go to order, swipe to delete, delete, delete. Cool. So it is still working. So again, the first way was just to really spell it out. This way is just cleaner. But that wraps it up for our order view UI. Again, in the next video, we're going to create that empty state. That's a pretty simple video. But then after that, we're going to create our order, object that's in our environment that we can, add items to the order, delete it on our order screen, all that good stuff. That's going to be probably a couple videos. So let's move on.